morning, everyone, and welcome. We are so thrilled to be partnering with the Attorney General's office, as well as both Better Business across the state of Oklahoma. I am your host for today. I'm Allison Abbott, the Vice President of Communication in the Central Oklahoma, or Oklahoma City office, as it were. So first, I want to welcome Attorney General Mike Hunter. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, everyone.
Thank you for being here. And we have Amy Mitchell. She is the CEO and President of Better Business Bureau of Oklahoma and Tulsa. Amy, say hello.
Hello, thanks for having me today.
Absolutely, glad you're here. And finally, we have Kit Letcher, our President and CEO of Better Business Bureau of Central Oklahoma in Oklahoma City. Kit, welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Well, first, for those of you that don't know these folks well, let me share some quick background information. So Attorney General Mike Hunter, he is the 18th Attorney General and was elected November 6th of 2018. And in this role, the safety and security of all Oklahomans has remained his top priority. Last year, under his leadership, the Consumer Protection Unit of the Attorney General's office filed felony charges for 24 cases, and this was a record for that unit. During the current and ongoing coronavirus pandemic, the office has been on the forefront of combating fraud and price gouging. After the President's emergency declaration, the Attorney General reallocated agents and attorneys to help with the investigations in the consumer unit. The Attorney also issued multiple consumer alerts, launched a fraud resources page, which we'll share with you later today. And on the level, he has partnered with the state's U.S. attorney to share resources and expedite investigations surrounding the coronavirus. We're so excited for the work that you're doing, General, and excited to share more with folks today.
Thank you. Good to be with you again.
Thank you. Again, she is the President and CEO for Better Business Bureau in Eastern Oklahoma in Tulsa, and she's been with BabyBeads for 15 years. Wonderful. Amy's passionate for consumers and businesses alike. Amy, welcome. And finally, the formal introduction for Ms. Kit Letcher. She's the President and CEO of Better Business Bureau serving Central Oklahoma in Oklahoma City. With 7 years and has both a proven track record and a passion for building company culture. So we are so excited again to have all of you here and sharing your knowledge and what you've seen in our offices in regard to the recent coronavirus pandemic. So we'll first talk about consumers, talk about businesses, what we're each seeing, and then certainly how those audiences can protect themselves. So General, start with you. Tell us a little bit about stimulus checks. That's certainly something that is on everyone's mind. They're coming out. What are some things to look for, watch for, how to them? Give us the flavor for that.
So we're seeing some mischief around stimulus checks with respect to outreaches that are occurring online and over the phone to individuals in an unsolicited way that suggests that there are ways that these checks can be expedited to consumers. None of those outreaches are legitimate. Your checks are going to come when they come. For most folks, if you filed a tax return, you're going to get your check either by mail, or if you authorized electronic deposit, they'll go right into your bank account. So any individuals that, again, are doing something in a way of soliciting you and advocating or alleging that they can help, they're in the process of committing fraud. Those are scams. So it's the first piece of advice that I would give to those who are watching today. Be on the outlook for those who are attempting to help you with your checks from the government. They're up to no good.
There's a big question, General, out in the world and online, certainly, about the time frame in which those of us can expect to receive our checks. Any updates or news there that you can or would be willing to share?
So those checks are being distributed as we speak. I know of individuals who've already received their check. The undertaking is mammoth. We have several hundred million people who are going to be receiving those checks. And for those individuals who haven't filed a tax return in the past 2 years, that's going to be an impediment. So if you don't have a return filed for 2018, if you haven't gotten a return in for 2019, those need to be expedited. My son's in the process of filing a return for 2019. This is his first year as a legitimate wage earner. He's just out of college, so he's in that mix of people that need to get their return filed so that they can be qualified and eligible to receive a check. So get those returns done if you haven't had a return filed on your behalf either in 2018 or 2019.
Wonderful, thank you. Additionally, we're all reading a lot about fake test kits. What's going on there?
So the FDA has not authorized home test kits for the virus. The concern is you may very well have a false sense of security by buying one of these tests and administering the test to yourself and having the test tell you that you're okay. There is just a great deal of danger with regard to using these tests. Again, there are no at-home tests that have been approved by the FDA. And what we don't want is somebody buying this test, taking it home, administering it, and thinking that they're okay, and later finding out that they have the virus, and not only do they have an exposure to and are in a position where they've really got to quickly give attention to and take care of themselves, they may be transmitting the infection unknowingly. So these advertisements for at-home test kits for the coronavirus are not legitimate.
Thank you. That's great advice. So it sounds like we certainly have at BabyBeads had quite a few scam-related calls in regard to COVID-19. What are some of the varying scam calls, or just scams in general in regard to the pandemic that you all are seeing, hearing about, calls about?
So in Oklahoma, the Attorney General's office has authority to address, prosecute if necessary, those who mark up goods or services subsequent to the president's declaration of a national emergency back on March 13th. So that statute is there again to ward against retailers, those who sell goods or services, taking advantage of folks during this crisis. So you can mark up, but your markup cannot exceed 10%. We've had north of 400 complaints that we've looked into. I'm happy to report that most of those complaints have not turned out to be violations of the law. We have seen some complaints where there has been a markup over and above the 10%, and we've been successful thus far in, through information and persuasion, getting retailers to adjust their prices. In this environment, it's just important everybody comply. And so if we can work with someone and get them into compliance without turning it into something very serious, that's our first resort in these cases. But we're taking them very seriously. We've as I think you said, we've doubled the complement of attorneys and investigators to consumer protection. So it's just a very important exercise that, again, is our responsibility under statute whenever there's a crisis, and this statute, this price stabilization statute, comes into effect.
Absolutely. Thank you. I know that your office and our office, the Better Business Bureau of Central Oklahoma, we recently were interviewed by a local station and shared a segment together. Gosh, there are a great deal of different types of scams that are taking place. Are there any specific ones that you all are receiving more calls about than others?
So the general advice that we give, and is particularly appropriate in this environment, in the middle of a crisis, verifying who you're doing business with, not accepting solicitation from individuals or entities that you don't have a connection with, that you're not familiar with. It's important generally, but it's even more important now. So working within the network of providers, of the network of businesses that you routinely do work with, that you routinely buy goods and services from, is really the best advice. Unsolicited emails are particularly of concern and should be of concern to consumers. What we are seeing is emails that look to be from a legitimate source, be it the IRS or the World Health Organization or the Center for Disease Control. If you're not subscribed to some kind of email process with those entities, emails that come, again, uninitiated, in a way that, as I've said, isn't in your typical routine with who you're subscribed to, those emails will frequently ask you to click a link, and that often will introduce a malware into your computer. So just be very wary of, again, solicitations, whether they're online or by phone, that occur and you're not familiar with either the caller or the initiator of the email. Those should be viewed with a great deal of skepticism. And I hate this. I hate that we're in a situation with society, and particularly now. The best approach you can take to protect yourself is, if you don't know who's calling you, don't answer the phone. If they're legitimate, they'll leave a message. And if you're not familiar with the sender of an email, it's best just to not open it.
Excellent advice. Thank you very much. Another type of scam, which is an unfortunate thing that happens in a crisis type time frame, are invalid charities, and therefore, borrowing your word, solicitation of donations to said charity. How could someone go about verifying a charity, what to look for, and in essence, how to protect themselves from donating their precious dollars to an invalid charity?
So Allison, the easiest way is, there is actually via our website, you can go to a link and you can check whether or not a charity is registered in Oklahoma. If you're not registered in Oklahoma, you can't solicit donations in Oklahoma. So that's the easiest way to verify a charity that you're looking to contribute to. Again, the best advice is stay within your network. I don't mean to diminish the work or the efforts of newly created charities, but the safest thing is work within your network of charities that you're familiar with, that you frequently contribute to. Again, I hate it that this is the advice I have to give, but it's the best way to protect yourself.
Indeed. So I mentioned, as I you all have created this lovely website providing resources during the pandemic. So I'll share that with the audience here today. General, is there any specific link you'd like me to click on, and I'll drive, and so that way you can share some of the information and where people might look here?
So the link is our webpage at oag.ok.gov. And I just encourage folks, the team here has worked very hard to put this resource page together, giving people up to the minute information about what's going on with the epidemic, about the scams and frauds that we're seeing. So again, hats off to the AG's office for their good work in putting that informational resource together. And again, the best way to access it is just go to oag.ok.gov. There's a link right there on the opening page of the website.
Excellent. Thank you. So you've given us some things to think about already. Are there any other tips, tidbits, advice you might share, generally speaking, during this current landscape of what people should look for and how to further protect themselves?
Well, as I said earlier, the best advice I can give, regrettably, is if you don't know who's calling you, via caller ID, don't answer the phone. If they're legitimate, they'll leave a message. Moreover, if you're seeing emails and you're not familiar with the sender, don't open the email. And last but not least, I would just encourage everybody, if you're seeing something, say something. Our direct line here is 405-521-3921. We have people answering the phone here during business hours, even though we've got, most people working via their home computers and what have you. But we're here answering the phone. We've got a complement of people here through the week. So call us if you see something. There's also a complaint form on our website, again, at oag.ok.gov, that you can fill out and provide information to our consumer protection folks. We're trying to work these complaints in real time. So again, just encourage folks to be very skeptical of outreaches that occur from people or businesses that you don't know. And when you see something that bothers you, please get in touch with us in real time. We've also, as you mentioned, we also have a very close, seamless partnership with U.S. attorneys in the state, particularly Tim Downing here in Oklahoma City. And so we can deploy not only state resources, but federal resources working with them. So I just wanted to, report that your tax dollars are at work. Federal and state officials are working very closely together to protect you.
And let me just say, for those dialing in, we greatly appreciate that and the work that you all are doing. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
So let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about businesses and things that businesses should look for, might consider doing. Amy, let's start with you. So many of us have different vendors and different bills, and all business owners' leadership teams are looking at their P&Ls right now, trying to figure out how to save, pinch a penny, if you will. So if you had to defer some payments, what are some things that folks should look for, might consider, what have you?
Well, I think the first thing is we are getting a lot of calls from businesses, and first thing that they don't want to have to lay off their employees, and they're trying to figure out how to save a dollar here, save a dollar there, so that they can maintain the staff that they currently have. So Better Business Bureau is recommending that businesses look at deferring some payments. If you haven't already set up this type of relationship with your vendors, now is a good time to start. You can ask for a net 30, net 60, net 90. If you already have something set up, then you may even ask for a net 120 days out. I know businesses that have built relationships with you are going to be much more appreciative that you reach out ahead of time instead of going into their collections and possibly getting late fees. Not all businesses have to adhere to deferred payments, but right now we're all in this together. So asking for deferred payment from your current vendors is a good way to at least get started, and maybe even help out your business for the next week or the next month, just to get you by.
Absolutely. Are there, Amy, as businesses are looking at saving money this time with an unknown future, of course, that they might consider asking? So something perhaps in addition to vendors.
Yeah, so besides vendors, there are a lot of loans out there. We've seen a lot of the SBA loans, bank loans with low interest rates, lines of credit, refinancing. There's so many different things that businesses can look at. But then on the back end of that, scammers come around. Anytime we have a crisis, you get the scam artists coming out of the woodwork. They're going to take advantage, unfortunately. So one thing we really want to advise business owners on is predatory lending. There are lots of different types of predatory lending, different versions of this. One of the things is charging excess fees and unnecessary fees. Whether it's refinancing through your real estate broker or a loan, they may add points onto that loan. So you need to be really careful with reviewing your contracts and making sure there aren't any excess charges or unnecessary fees with those types of loans. that goes hand in hand with just reviewing the contract very carefully before you sign anything. Another predatory lending practice is adding unnecessary insurance. So whether it be disability insurance, life insurance, or insurance in general, could be rolled into your contract. So you want to be careful. Again, really look at the practice and everything that is in your contract before signing. And these days, interest rates are great. So if you're being steered towards a high interest rate loan, be very careful, because if your credit is good, you should probably be getting a really good interest rate right now. We know that the feds have approved all kinds of loans for us business owners that have great low interest rates. So be really careful if you're being steered into a high interest rate loan.
Excellent advice. Thank you. So, fraudulent small business applications or grants, you mentioned, you're right, there are a lot of ways in which we can apply for various funding right now. But talk to us about some of the fraudulent things that are taking place around that, because people may not know what to look for.
Right, especially with grants. If you are looking for a grant for your company, because most of us, even though we might be looking at loans, if we can get a grant to save our business or save part of our business, we want to go to grants.gov. That's where you should go to look for those grants. If you do just a random Google search for grants, you're probably going to come up with a lot of scam websites. And you may see social media posts, you may be getting text, phone calls, emails. Just like the Attorney General said, be really careful about clicking those links that could download malware. If you're not expecting it, do your own research first. And don't give out any personal information or bank information when you're doing your initial investigation. We are seeing a lot of social media posts where, hey, you can get a grant for your business. So remember that the government does not post on social media. So that's the first thing to look for. They're not going to put out an ad saying, hey, we're going to give you some money. So be really careful there. They're also not going to text you or email you. You'll have to do the research on your own. But be careful what websites you go to and really, really do your research. If you do get an email and you're interested and you click on something, be very careful to know that there are a lot of lookalike websites out there. So you may go to a bank, or you may go to what you think is a government agency that's going to offer a loan or a grant, and it may look very, very similar to the same website as a legitimate website, but it may have a different web address at the top. So be careful for those lookalike websites.
Wonderful advice, Amy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You bet. Kit, let's segue to you. So, as we all know, the tax filing deadline has been moved to July of this year, 2020. And so, fortunately or unfortunately, whatever it is for you, we are still very much in tax season. So folks might still be working with CPAs, or perhaps just choosing one and getting started, and or they might be now looking toward doing tax planning for the remainder of their 2020. What should people be looking for to make certain that they're choosing a trustworthy CPA or tax planner?
Yeah, thank you, Allison. With everything that's going on, it can be a really confusing time for business owners and just the financial individuals within a business. And so having a really good CPA or a tax accountant, somebody who can help you, is going to be such a huge benefit to your business. And now is a great time, if you haven't already built that relationship with a CPA, to go through the steps of how to do your kind of your relationship building, making sure that you're doing your interviews and looking at the qualifications of the person that you're interested in hiring. There's a lot of different loopholes within the tax code and things to watch out for. It's something that's constantly evolving. So you want to make sure that you're working with somebody who's always doing a good job of staying on top of continuing education, and that they are educating themselves on the updates and the changes. And I would say, especially this year, that's a huge issue, because we have so many new tax credits that are now available to businesses. So as you are interviewing CPAs and talking to them about how they can best fit into your business, and if they're a good fit for how the two of you can work together, those would be the types of questions that I would ask. You know, how familiar are they with the types of changes that have happened this year due to coronavirus, and what effects they're having on your business? And in addition to filing your taxes, or if you need to do an extension, are they able to help you with those different things, whether it's using the tax credit on your 941? Are they able to help you defer payroll taxes, which is something new that just came out this last week with the IRS? So can they help you walk through that process? And we've even seen some business owners really utilize their CPAs in a great way as far as helping them fill out their SBA loan information and the PPP loan information, because that can be, as a business owner, a really daunting task to take on. So it's a great way to utilize somebody who has the expertise to do that. But that's a conversation that you need to have on the front end with your CPA as you are engaging them in those services. Because if it's going to cost you additional monies, if it's going to take additional time, if it's going to delay other things that you will need in order to prepare for your taxes to have them ready for July, those are things that you'll want to know ahead of time and understand the financial risk that you're taking with utilizing those additional services. So I would say this is a great time when we maybe have just a little bit more time to do our homework, to start having those conversations with CPAs, to do your background checks on them as far as making sure that they are credentialed and licensed for the type of work that they are doing, looking at reviews for what other people have commented on that individual or on that firm that you're thinking about using. And also asking for references, if they would let you talk to other business owners that they're providing service to, and getting a feel from them on the type of service that you should expect from that CPA. So it's a great time to do your homework, but to also build a relationship so that going forward, this is somebody that's really integral to the success of your business.
Kit, thank you. And I bet I know a website that you know of where people can go find reputable CPAs if they might be in the market for one.
I do, absolutely. So BabyBeads.org is a great resource for businesses and consumers alike to find somebody to help them with their taxes or other financial issues that they're looking at. It's great because it's a completely free resource for individuals to use. And as Mike and Amy have both talked about, there are a lot of scams that come out of the woodwork whenever we start getting into really financially sensitive topics. And obviously tax time is one of those. So being able to utilize Scam Tracker on our website is another great resource for people to look at to see if perhaps they have fallen victim to or been solicited by somebody who has malicious intentions regarding their business or their personal entity.
Thank you. Attorney General hit on this a bit earlier, but let's unpack this a little bit more about price gouging. I think we've all heard or watched on the news, perhaps at the start of the pandemic here in the US multiple weeks ago, face masks of varying kinds. That was a big topic of conversation regarding price gouging, but there are other things that are taking place. Now, in this regard, Kit, tell us a little bit about what businesses should not do. We heard from General earlier about we can't go above the 10% market, but are there other things that businesses should be aware of, weary of, watch for, so that they can ensure they are not sort of committing price gouging?
Yeah, well, I would say the 10% rule is obviously something that people should keep in mind, not just now when we are in a disaster declared situation, but really year round, because this is a great opportunity for businesses to show their consumers or other people that they're doing business with how they're going to treat them. It's a great time to build a relationship. And unfortunately, because everybody is feeling just extreme kind of emotions whenever it comes to the coronavirus and the different situations that we're all in, people remember how they're being treated by businesses in this significant time in our lives. And so that's something that business owners really need to take into consideration before they start changing their prices, before they start changing maybe their return policies on goods or items that they have sold, and not start working outside of what are their normal operations of integrity. So if you have core values and core things that you have always done as a business owner, while we're in the face of something obviously very different and people are facing significant financial hardships, this is not the time to make significant changes to your business operation and how you're charging people or how you're interacting with them outside of, obviously social distancing and doing curbside pickup and things like that. But this is a really great opportunity to stay tried and true to your core values as a business owner, and showing that same level of integrity with the employees in your business. Making sure that you are being very upfront and transparent in how you're treating people and showing them, this is how we've done business for the last 5, 10, 15 years, however long, and we will continue to operate in this way. So we're not raising prices, or if we do raise prices, it's a minimal amount to cover some additional costs that we are incurring as a business due to social distancing or those kinds of things. A good example is we have a really great Mexican restaurant here in Edmond that my family utilizes. And because they're having to do a lot more curbside pickup, they're doing a lot more takeout, their prices have increased for the to-go containers that they are now having to provide to every single order that they are producing. And so they did a really great job of going on social media, and then anytime you order from their restaurant and saying, we've incurred a little bit of an extra cost because of this. So we've added just an additional charge because of the to-go containers. And they explained it completely so that as a consumer, we understood what we were working with, but also understood that they're doing the very best that they can in this current situation to provide the best level of service. And it was a really small markup. It didn't obviously reach that 10%, but they did a great job of just saying, you're going to see things look a little bit differently, but we are working really hard to provide you the same level of service that we always have. So I think this is a great opportunity for businesses to just be transparent and forthright in how they're operating and what they are experiencing and how they're trying to overcome those obstacles and provide new solutions.
Kit, that's a great example. I appreciate that you took us through that and gave us an example so people can wrap their brains around, if they hadn't already, of what that looks like in the best possible way. That sharing is key. Yeah. General, give us a flavor for what the law says about price gouging so that we're all really clear on what to do and what not to do, if you will, here.
So when we get a complaint, Allison, our approach is, and Amy, please emphasize this to your members. Our approach is not that you're guilty until proven innocent. We very carefully approach this on a compliance basis. I like to say that our approach is to inform and persuade. We also take into account market forces that are outside a retailer's control, and we've actually seen that with some commodity products, particularly eggs. There's been some increase in the price of eggs. Our research indicates that is a product of commodities market, and it's not anything that retailers had control over. If they were going to be able to buy eggs and provide them to the public, there was a markup that had to occur because of the wholesale price of the product. So we're always very thoughtful, and we're always very open to, again, information about vectors, information about factors that have caused the markup that are outside the retailer's control.
Thank you for that. Excellent. So Amy and Kit, you each talked about several things that people can do, look out for, people in business. What are some other things that people might consider looking for or avoiding potentially in order to protect themselves in a time like our current landscape?
I think one thing I want to touch on is staying informed. This culture right now that we're in is changing daily. I know for myself, it's minute by minute. We're getting, emails. This has come up. This scam has come up. This has changed. Now this is this. So for business owners, I would say keep in contact with your BBB and the Attorney General's office. Check their websites often to see what articles they have posted, to see what's new. Make sure that you've subscribed to our email and that you're checking that bbb.org/coronavirus. Just keep informed and really do your research and make sure you're up to date.
Thank you. Kit, thought and question?
Yeah, I think the last thing I just really want to touch on is a lot of the business owners that we work with at Better Business Bureau are small business owners. They wear all hats and they are trying to figure this out very much for themselves. And not only are they working by themselves, but they're now isolated, probably at home, and not able to interact with the people they're normally used to. And so this is a really great time to lean on the vendors and the other people who provide services to your business that can be of assistance and are looking for ways to really provide you with that additional assistance. And I'll use an example of the gentleman that is our insurance agent. He does all of our building insurance, D&O insurance, our employee insurance. And he reached out to me actually a couple of weeks ago and just said, I want you to know that I'm here for you. And I'm curious what your operations look like right now and how can I best be of service to you. And I just said, here's the areas where we are looking at making financial cuts, or I need to reevaluate how much money we're spending on this, or do you have a contact in this area? And he was just a great resource for me to help provide me with additional contacts, but also another person who's invested in making sure that my business is successful. And so I think sometimes we forget that those people are on our team and they really want us to be successful, and we need to utilize that expertise. And if you don't have somebody that is currently helping you with those different areas of struggle or strain in your business right now, this is a great opportunity to hire somebody and really get a sense of how they're going to help your business be successful. And again, going to bbb.org in order to start that process of evaluation, using the AG's website to look for any complaints that may be available, and making sure that you're doing your homework while you have time to do it, and just really doing a good evaluation of your business and who can be the most help to you in this time of uncertainty.
Thank you for that, Kit. I know, and Amy, I know a lot of businesses are, to your point, shifting and shaping daily and trying to figure out where to go and where to look and figure out resources. So all great advice from all three of you. So it's been mentioned a few times, but if you are interested in reaching out to, looking at the websites for those varying types of information, updates, articles, what have you, here are the links to the 3 different offices here for our folks that joined us today and provided you this information, as well as phone numbers to call their main office or email addresses for inquiries if you're not quite sure otherwise and might perhaps feel more comfortable sending an email rather than picking up the phone. General, Amy, Kit, I appreciate all of you sharing this information. No doubt it will be extremely helpful for consumers and businesses during this time. And lastly, I just want to personally thank all of you for your leadership and information and partnership in this time. Thank you for leading us all through this landscape. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.